Welcome to our session called Recycled Science. I'm Kristen Poindexter. I am the current president of HASTE, which is the Hoosier Association of Science Teachers Incorporated. I am also a kindergarten teacher in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we have several videos we are going to share with you today that are all using recycled materials. Each one has a story before it. And then the three of us, Dawn's here, my co-host, and Shannon Hudson, hopefully will join us soon. And we all have recycled science ideas to share with you. So I'm going to share mine with you first. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Celebrate Science Indiana. My name is Kristen Poindexter, and I am currently the president of HASTE, the Hoosier Association of Science Teachers Incorporated. You can check out our website at www.hasti.org for more information and lesson plans and lots of information all about science and how it relates to teaching. Today, I'm going to share with you an activity that is great for a preschooler all the way up to a second grader. I'm going to share a story with you and then an activity that goes along with it. Our sessions are going to be called Recycled Science. So you will see that all of us from HASTE who are sharing with you today are using items that you might have around your home already or can get pretty easily to experiment with and explore with and use over and over again. So here we go. This is the story of Rapunzel. Once upon a time, there was a couple who longed to have a child. Years passed with only the two of them. At last, it seemed that her wish would come true. The wife would soon have a child. Before the baby was born, the wife liked to sit by a window. It looked out on a grand garden filled with beautiful flowers and plants. The garden was a wonder, but no one dared to enter it. It belonged to a witch who surrounded it with a high wall. One day, the wife caught sight of a bed of Rapunzel. Did you know it's an herb? The herb looked so fresh and green. The wife knew at once that she must have some of it. Day after day, she could think of nothing else. She grew pale from wishing for the herb. "Whatever is the matter?" the husband asked. "I must eat some Rapunzel from that garden," the wife answered. "If I do not, I will die." The husband loved his wife very much. He felt he must find a way to get her some Rapunzel. The husband climbed over the wall and into the garden. Quickly, he grabbed as much Rapunzel as he could carry. He scrambled back over the wall and into the house. His wife was delighted with the Rapunzel. She immediately made a salad of the herb and gobbled it up. The Rapunzel tasted so delicious, she begged for more. Once again, the husband made his way into the garden. He reached out his hand to gather up the herb. Suddenly, the witch was upon him. "Thief!" she cried. "How dare you steal from my garden? You will pay dearly for this." The man was very frightened. "It is for my wife, who will soon have our child," he said. "She sees your Rapunzel from our window. She has the greatest longing for it. I feared that without the Rapunzel, she would die." At his words, the witch grew very calm. "Very well," she said. "You may take all the Rapunzel you need. But there is a price. You must give me your child." The man did not know what to do. Finally, he decided he had no choice but to agree. The minute the child was born, the witch appeared. She named the baby girl Rapunzel and took her away. The witch had never cared for anyone before, but she loved Rapunzel deeply. Rapunzel grew into a beautiful child. Her eyes sparkled and her cheeks glowed. Her long golden hair fell in lovely waves. Years passed, and the witch feared Rapunzel would someday leave her, so she decided to lock Rapunzel away from the world. She took her to a tower deep in the forest. The tower had no door and only a single window at the very top. For years, Rapunzel lived alone in the tower. The witch visited each day. She would stand below the window and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The girl would unpin her long, lovely braids and wind them around the window hook. Then she would let them tumble to the ground. The witch would then climb up the braids to the window. For hours each day while she was alone, Rapunzel sang to the forest birds. One day, a prince rode through the forest. He stopped when he heard singing. It was the sweetest, yet saddest voice he had ever heard. The prince wanted to see who was singing. He circled the tower, but found no way in. At last, he gave up and rode back to his palace. The prince kept thinking about the beautiful voice. He returned to the forest day after day to find out who was singing. One day, the prince caught sight of the witch. He stayed behind a tree and listened. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," the witch called. Now the prince knew what he needed to do. The prince went back the next evening. He stood under the window and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And Rapunzel's hair came tumbling down. The prince climbed up and stepped into the tower. At first, Rapunzel was quite afraid. She had never seen a man before. But the prince was very kind. The two of them talked for hours and fell deeply in love. They were married in the tower that very night. The prince came to visit every evening after that. The witch only came in the day. She knew nothing of the prince's visits. Then one day, Rapunzel told the witch, "I am going to have a child." "I locked you away from all the world," the witch cried, "but still you have betrayed me." She grabbed Rapunzel's braids and a pair of scissors, and with a great clip, the witch lopped off Rapunzel's hair. Then she sent Rapunzel to live alone in the wilderness. That night, the prince came to see Rapunzel as he always did. He called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The braids fell down the side of the tower as always. The prince climbed up, but when he got to the top, the witch was waiting. "So you have come to see your darling," cackled the witch. "Well, she is lost to you forever, and now you are lost too." The witch let go of the braids, and the prince fell from the tower. He landed in a bed of thorny brambles, which blinded him. Blind and broken-hearted, the prince stumbled through the forest for a year. One day, by chance, he came upon the wild place where Rapunzel was living. There, the prince heard a singing voice. It sounded to him both beautiful and dear, and he rushed toward it. When Rapunzel saw the prince, she swept him into her arms, weeping. Her tears fell into his eyes, and at once the prince's eyesight returned to him. The prince gazed at Rapunzel, and just beyond her, he saw their two children. In the wilderness, Rapunzel had given birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The prince hugged his children. Then he and Rapunzel joyfully carried them out of the wilderness and back to the prince's kingdom, and they lived happily ever after. So now I'm going to share an activity with you that you can do to build Rapunzel's tower. And all I used were index cards. And I just took some old index cards that I had and I folded them in half, so short side to short side. And you will need 2 index cards to make a square. And every time you make a square, you will then want to place a flat index card on top and then add on another square. And you're going to keep building and building and building to see how tall you can make Rapunzel's tower. How many index cards tall do you think you can build your tower? I'm at 3 stories high. It's getting a little wobbly. We'll see. All right, here's story number 4. Hopefully it won't come crashing down. Oh, it's a little wobbly. Oh goodness, I made it 4 stories high. I bet you'll be able to build yours taller. But you can build that over and over again. And if you don't have any index cards, you can use pieces of paper or you can use playing cards. Just be sure to ask your family first if it's okay if you fold them in half. I hope you enjoyed this recycled science lesson and continue on to hear a lesson for grades 3 through 5. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so now I will share the middle school lesson with you from our very own Shannon Hudson.
Hello, Celebrate Science Indiana participants, and welcome to the middle school portion, or part 3, of Recycle Science. My name is Shannon Hudson, and I teach middle school science out in Crawfordsville, Indiana. And this is a portion of a book that I read to my students before I challenge them to make newspaper shoes. The portion of the book that I'm about to read to you is called Trash Revolution: Breaking the Water Cycle by Erica Fivey, and it includes sections on water, food, clothing, paper, plastic, metals, electronics, waste in space, and zero waste future. So here we go. Paper. You know that quiz hiding in your backpack? Never mind the grade. We're more interested in the paper it's printed on. Making paper from trees. Until 1850, paper was made from recycled fabrics like linen and cotton. Recycled rags were a top trading item. Parchment was also used, but it was very expensive. Parchment was made from animal skins, but a single book might require 300 sheepskins. Paper makers experimented with the fibers of straw, nests, and wood. We've been making paper from wood ever since. The recipe for 1 ton of white office paper includes 24 trees, 2,570 liters of oil, 10,061 kilowatts of electricity, coal for power, 400 milliliters of water for each sheet of paper, 200 or so different chemicals to convert wood into pulp, and chlorine dioxide and hydrogen peroxide for bleaching. Step 1, cut down the trees and bring them to a factory. Remove the bark. Step 2, cut the logs into small wood chips. Step 3, stem the wood chips under pressure into an oatmeal-like paste. Step 4, add bleach and chemicals to the fiber pulp to change the feel or color. Step 5, push the paste along mesh rollers to flatten it, squeezing out excess water with steam-heated dryers. Step 6, seal the surface with a chemical solution. Step 7, wind the paper onto giant spools. And step 8, cut into sheets. Voila, paper. This will yield 200,000 sheets, or about 400 packs of paper. The leftovers include 1 ton of office paper creates 72,702 liters of wastewater and 1,033 kilograms of solid waste. Plus, burning coal for making paper creates greenhouse gases and 1 ton of paper in the landfill and will turn into almost 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide because it composes into methane. The dangers of deforestation. Deforestation is removing trees and clearing the forest for another use, in this case, paper production. Roughly 7,284,000 hectares of land is deforested around the world every year. That's almost the size of South Carolina. Paper logging companies clear the rainforest, cutting down almost all the trees. The area under the canopy, the overlapping branches and leaves, is full of animal habitats and food sources. Cutting the trees destroys the ecosystem. In Indonesia, the rainforest is home to more than 3,000 animal species. These include endangered animals like Sumatran tigers, elephants, rhinoceroses, and orangutans. As Indonesia's tree canopy shrinks, so do the habitats for animal and people. Logging areas create a lot of industrial pollution. Burning and clear-cutting trees emits carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Plus, the loss of those trees means they can't help remove the extra carbon dioxide. Thanks to concerned citizens, local governments and pulp and paper companies are looking for alternatives. Some companies grow new pulp wood plantations, but the trees take a long time to mature. Think of all the trees and lives you can protect by using both sides of your paper and then recycling it. We're on a roll now. Worldwide, approximately 270,000 trees are cut down every day for paper production. 10% of that is for toilet paper. According to the Toilet Paper Encyclopedia, yes, it exists, 49% of people would choose toilet paper as their one desert island item. Toilet paper ranked higher than food. The same study told us that the average person spends 3 years of their lives on the toilet. That's a lot of paper and a lot of time. Recycling, following the paper trail. Do you have a recycling bin in your classroom? Do you put all your waste paper in it, or does some of it end up in the garbage? What happens to paper that goes in the recycling bin? Step 1, the used paper is brought by truck to the recycling center. Step 2, paper is sorted by grade based on quality, like your schoolwork, and sent to the pulper. Step 3, the pulper is a huge tank filled with water and chemicals. It breaks down the paper into smaller pieces. Step 4, the pulp is screened for glue or staples and sent into a centrifuge, a giant cone-shaped spinner. Any bits that don't belong fall through to the bottom. Step 5, the pulp gets de-inked with soapy chemicals and then bleached with hydrogen peroxide, chlorine dioxide, or oxygen. Step 6, pulp fibers are sprayed with water and sent along a wire screen where they flatten out, drain, and attach to each other to form a sheet. Step 7, the sheet moves along metal rollers to dry, then gets wound into a giant roll of paper. How giant is a giant roll of paper? A roll can weigh 18,145 kilograms, the weight of 4,000 cats. Think before you use. You may think that recycling paper makes it okay to throw it out. It'll be recycled anyway. It's true that recycling means less logging, deforestation, processing, and pulping waste, but the recycling process has its own demands. To make 1 ton of new office paper, 90,850 liters of water. To make 1 ton of recycled paper, 45,425 liters of water. That's half the water, but still a lot. And recycling paper requires bleaching and de-inking chemicals, as well as lots of energy. The 3 R's work best when they work together: recycling, reducing, and reusing. Paper can and can't be recycled. Even though we recycle a lot of it, paper still represents about 30% of landfill garbage. In North America, 1.8 million kilograms of wrapping paper goes straight to a landfill every year. That's almost enough paper to cover 6,000 professional football fields. So what's recyclable? Office paper, newspaper, magazine, catalogs, junk mail, tissue boxes, the rolls for paper towels and toilet paper, cereal boxes, paper, milk, and juice cartons, books, paper cups, pizza boxes, cardboard, brown paper bags, and shoe boxes. What's not recyclable? Paper napkins, tissue paper, and paper towels, but these can be composted, wax paper, cardboard lined with bubble wrap, waxed cardboard like from frozen foods, and paper with plastic, metallic, or other coatings. Lucky 7. If you see the term 7th generation, it refers to the Great Law of the Iroquois, which says that we must consider how our decisions will affect the next 7 generations. What you buy and you use now can have an impact on your great-grandchildren. Interestingly, 7 is also the maximum number of times that paper can be recycled. Doing your bit by bit. Let's say you have a whole piece of paper plus the scrap paper. Which one do you recycle? Both. Most of us don't. Researchers have done experiments and found that whole pieces of paper get recycled and scraps usually get trashed. Why? We tend to only recycle things that still look useful. But even shredded paper can be recycled or turned into kitty litter, which is a bigger waster of water, paper napkins or cloth. A paper napkin once used and thrown away, 15 liters of water. A cloth napkin washed and reused 50 times, 4.5 liters of water. Recycling paper saves 3,855 kilograms of carbon dioxide per year. So here's your recycled projects. A recycled paper house. When you think of newspaper, recycled newspaper, what do you picture? How about a house? Papercrete is a construction material that made primarily from recycled paper. Newspapers, junk mail, magazines, and books are mixed with a small amount of clay or cement. The mixture is poured into molds and dried in the sun, then covered with a water-resistant coating. These papercrete bricks are incredibly strong and can be held together with, you guessed it, more papercrete. Imagine a library made entirely out of recycled books. You can even build your own, but please don't use this book before reading it. A recycled paper bike and helmet. Izar Gafni is an industrial machine designer who created a bike made entirely completely from recycled cardboard and car tires. It weighs less than 9 kilograms, but can carry up to 125 kilograms because of its strong design. What does every recyclist need? A recycled paper helmet. Students at the Royal College of Art in London saw all the newspapers left on the subway and wanted to put them to good use. The result? A recycled paper helmet so tight that it's great for people using a bike sharing program who don't want to lug a heavy helmet around all day. Wait, what if you leave your paper house to deliver the newspaper on a paper bicycle while wearing a paper helmet? It's possible. A recycled paper canoe. Sure, a cardboard bicycle sounds possible, but a boat? Boats have to get wet. At the Recycled Cardboard Boat Regatta in Delaware, participants must build their own boat entirely of recycled cardboard. No metal, wood, or screws allowed. And paddle it 220 meters. Awards are given for best decorated boat, best constructed boat, and even most dramatic sinking. Someday, boats made of recycled paper may actually be practical as well as fun. The true adventure of comic book paper. In 1934, the first full-color comic book is printed on ground wood paper, the same paper used for newspapers. The good news? Ground wood paper, made by mechanically grinding wood pulp, takes fewer trees and chemicals to process. Early 1900s. Popular comics began printing on 100% recycled paper and using soy-based inks rather than traditional petroleum inks. Hooray! Late 1900s. Comics returned to paper made from wood because they say recycled paper is too expensive. Yikes. 2008. Some comics switched to recycled newsprint paper stock made from 85% paper waste. Kapow! Today, the kind of paper comic books used may change again depending on cost and customer demands. To be continued. That quiz belongs you know where. Maybe next time you get a quiz back and your results stink, you can do something about it. The White Goat machine is a small paper recycling center with just one purpose. First, you push the waste paper through the shredder. There, the paper dissolves into water and it's thinned out and dried and wound around toilet paper rolls. Takes about 30 minutes to make a roll of toilet paper. So now, here comes your challenge. To help with this recycling idea, you are going to make a pair of paper shoes. Your goal is to create a nice looking pair of shoes that you can put on and take off just like your regular shoes and walk across the room in. There are a couple of rules. These shoes must fit your foot comfortably. You are only allowed to use newspaper or computer paper from the recycle bin or elsewhere for the shoes. But you can use any type of tape, glue, or anything you might have at home to keep the newspaper together. But you can only use up to 36 inches. And the newspaper must be very visible in your design. Think tucking, think folding, think rolling. You can create laces, straps, etc. to keep the shoes on your feet. I would suggest you begin by tracing the bottom of your own shoes on paper to get started. Next, you need to decide what kind of shoe you want to make. Sneakers, high heels, slippers, boots, sandals, any type you want. Feel free to check YouTube for ideas, helpful hints, but only you can make these ideas actually work. Once you're done, be sure to embellish with colors, creative designs, and your own personal touches. And absolutely be sure to share. Thank you for joining this version of Recycle Science.
All right, and now I'm gonna let Dawn take over and share her idea for recycled science.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate everyone's patience with our technology. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. Here is my video.
Hello, I'm Dawn Vick, and I teach kindergarten through 5th grade science at the Haston Hebrew Academy. And for Celebrate Science today, I am a member of Hasty. I am the elementary director, and I am going to do a lesson for 3rd through 5th grade, although anyone can do this lesson. And I'm going to read Jack and the Beanstalk to you, and then I'll have a challenge for you at the end. Jack and the Beanstalk, retold and illustrated by Stephen Kellogg. There was, once upon a time, a poor widow who had an only son named Jack and a cow named Milky White. And all they had to live on was the milk the cow gave every morning, which they carried to the market and sold. But one morning, Milky White gave no milk, and they didn't know what to do. "Cheer up, Mother. I'll go and get work somewhere," said Jack. "We've tried that before, and nobody would take you," cried his mother. "We must sell Milky White, and with the money start shop or something." On his way to market, Jack met a funny-looking old man. "Well, good morning, Jack," he said. "Good morning to you," said Jack, and wondered how the man knew his name. "Can you tell me how many beans make 5, said the man. "2 in each hand and 1 in your mouth," said Jack, sharp as a needle. "Right," said the man, "and as you are such a bright lad, I don't mind doing a swap with you. Your cow for these beans." "Go along," said Jack. "Ah, but these are magic beans," said the man. "If you plant them tonight, by morning they grow right up to the sky." "Really?" said Jack. "Yes, and if it doesn't turn out to be true, you can have your cow back." "Back already, Jack?" asked his mother. "Tell me, how much did you get from Milky White?" "You'll never guess, Mother." "Could it be 5 pounds, 10, 15? "No," she cried, "it can't be 20. I knew you couldn't guess. What do you say to these magical beans? Plant them tonight and—" "What?" said Jack's mother. "Have you been such a dolt, such an idiot, to give away my Milky White, the best milker in the parish, for a set of poultry beans? Off with you to bed, and as for your precious beans, here they go out the window." So Jack went upstairs to his little room in the attic, and sad and sorry he was, to be sure, as much for his mother's sake as for the loss of his supper. At last he drifted off to sleep. When Jack woke up, he saw that the beans had sprung up into a big beanstalk that went up and up and up till it reached the sky. So the old man spoke the truth after all. Jack gave a jump onto the beanstalk, and he climbed 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 till at last he reached the sky. Jack walked along, and he walked along, and he walked along till he came to a great big tall house, and on the doorstep